Sassy men are getting out of hand. And the best part of how much I post about my dating life is you get to go back and see my thought process of being like, oh yeah, maybe I like this guy who's like, you know, a little more feminine, like releasing some gender roles, blah, blah, blah. And then after one date, he says, you know, I was thinking and I was kind of bummed because you haven't planned a date for me yet. And we were literally out, like we were on like 1.5 dates. Like he planned a date. That was a great date, whatever. I made a video about it. And then we had like a really not good kind of adventure. I wouldn't call it a date. I would call it an adventure where we went several places. I felt like he was complaining about everything. He then told me he was like in a bad mood. And at the end of the night, we went to a brewery to get some beers. And at the cash register, the guy's like, okay, is it together or separate? And he like gives me that look. And I was like, you know, it can be separate. Like I thought he was looking as in, do you want me to pay for it or do you want to split it? And I was like, okay, if he's giving me that look, like whatever, we'll just split it. Like he had paid for like, it was cheap food, but he had paid for the food before. Afterwards, we get out of the brewery. He says, you know, I thought you were going to pay for my beer for a second and I got wet. Now I'm dry. I was like, oh, I was just like, I'm not even going to address that. Anyways, last night, this man comes over and he's literally saying to me, I was bummed. There's not a lot of he was trying to say reciprocity and I let him try to say it 7 times incorrectly before I told him reciprocity because he kept being like, I can't say that word. And I just watched him struggle. It's the little wins. He said, this is what I hate about boy-girl relationships because I'm the guy, so I know I'm expected to plan more and all of these things, but I really want to be treated. And I just kind of started to get the ick and also realized that I wasn't like that attracted to him because I think initially I was like, oh, this person's really cool. But then he started to kind of harbor the same, like, not all guys do this, but I really, really hate a yucker of yums. I really, really hate somebody who's like very adamant to give a negative opinion about everything that I seem to be enjoying for whatever reason. It could be where we are. It could be what we're eating, what we're drinking. It could be the fact, like he literally was shaming me for the way I sage. I don't even remember how it came up, but I was saying how I had saged before he got there. And he was like, well, no, you didn't because the windows aren't open. And I was like, what? Like, how are you telling me how to sage? Like, I sage the way I like to sage and I say an intention. You know what I mean? And that works for me. And he was like, well, that's not the way, it's just not the way it's done. It's not the way I was raised. Like, there's just a right way to do it. And I was like, the kind of people who say that there's a right way to do something spiritual are like priests and like cult leaders. I don't associate myself with that philosophy of like, this is the way you do things in spirituality because that feels like a weird doctrine that I didn't sign or agree to. And he always like does this thing where he's like, he makes a weird face and he's like, yeah, I guess. And I was like, he did another one of those. That wasn't even the time that I mentioned something. Well, I had kind of mentioned something the other day and that's part of why the date didn't go so well. And he looked like he was gonna like cry or walk away. Like whenever I'm like saying how I feel, he gets like, he looks like he's being scolded and he's like, okay, like he can't look me in the eye. And I hate, one thing about me, I hate a wimp. I hate somebody who can't look me in the eye while they're talking or while I'm talking to them. I hate somebody who feels like avoidant because to me it's giving like wimp. Like say things with your chest, be direct or don't shoot. Be direct or don't shoot. If you're saying something, don't beat around the bush and like kind of sort of make it right. Say it with your chest or don't say it. That's my philosophy. And so when people aren't like that, I'm like, I can't even take you seriously right now because you're not looking me in the eye. When he was trying to say that he was bummed because I wasn't like planning a date when we'd literally known each other for a week. Okay, we saw each other 3 times in a week and he had already started talking about like wanting to be in a relationship and like meeting his friends and like, yeah, like when we become boyfriend and girlfriend, like blah, blah, blah. And so he had like built this thing up in his head And then whenever I was like expressing anything at all, he almost took it like a discount, like something was being taken away from him. You know that thing how like sometimes guys think that you're talking like almost 60% more than you are? Like that's how their brains work, because and how sometimes if they just talked to you the whole time on a date, they'll think that you had a really great conversation because they talked a lot. So I'm not that bitch, unless I'm like really, really bored and don't feel like talking to you. But with this person, like I would be making a point and he just could not let me make it without like doing that like Ted from How I Met Your Mother thing where he's like, actually, and then he has to one up and correct you and make you feel like shit. And I like at some point I was like, do you always do that? Like, do you ever let anybody have anything? And he was like, well, I'm just really used to being in charge and being a leader. So, and this is when like the bi man has all the negative traits of a straight man. Do you know what I mean? Like that's like a very much a man-erism. And like he started to have like some mansplaining energy, and I was like, okay, you know what I mean? And like I tried to explain to him, I was like, when I like present ideas and you're always like yucking my yum and shutting it down as if like everything I say is wrong and like you're the only one who can be right. And he kept saying to me, he was like, people really like me for my opinions. And I was like, yeah, me too, but I don't have to say it all the time because I just know that, and it's obvious, and it's also proven, like I have the receipts. So the fact that he felt like he needed to say that to me, like I think he said that 3 times. Also, he was like so obsessed with like, I'm happy. Like I swear I've never heard somebody say I'm happy so much, because it makes me not believe you. Like he's like, I'm happy. Like, you know, I have nothing to complain about, so I'm happy. Are you happy? Like blah, 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 blah. I hate the overuse of that word because I don't think happiness is true north. I think it's fleeting. I think it comes and goes. Peace is a different thing. Gratitude is a different thing. Joy is a different thing. Groundedness is a different thing. But I think people who are obsessed with like happiness often come off like ingenuine. Like feel happy. Happy. I'm happy. I'm happy. I'm happy. After the second or third, I think you're crazy. I feel like, okay, you're trying to convince yourself, because I don't believe you. I don't believe you. The same way, like, the more you feel like you have to say something about yourself, the more I feel like you're trying to convince yourself. You know what I mean? And it was interesting because when we were talking, like, he started to be like, do you think, like, we're good for each other? And I was like, I don't know. Like, you know, I'm just getting to know you. Like, this is, like, our 3rd time meeting, even though he had already made like all these preconceived notions about what was happening and where things were going and what I hadn't done, and him getting bummed because I didn't plan a date in a week and all these other things that apparently are valid in a man's mind. Whatever. I was saying that because when we had a bad date the other day, because like we were both getting annoyed and emotional and whatever, and then afterwards he texted me and he asked like, what if something like that happens again, what can I do to better support you? And I said, make me feel heard, because I had felt like he was doing that thing where he almost like was making it a goal to make me feel unheard and very small. And so I told him that, and I said, it's very important to me to feel heard. That's like really my number one thing. And then so I was explaining to him, why would you even ask that and pretend like you cared to make me feel heard? But then when I'm telling you right here, right now, that you're making me feel unheard, like my opinion is not valued, and like you're trying to condescend me and feel like the smart one with the great ideas, like I don't take that, especially not in my house. That's like a big thing for me. And I think I wish men had men in their head, they're very much like respect oriented, but sometimes they don't know how to flip it, specifically when they're in someone else's space. And that's like something that I found is a plague, that if I can find a unicorn who doesn't make me feel disrespected and like he's in charge in a space that I pay for, that is mine, that is my piece, then like I'll keep him around for more than a month. But until that happens, like it's actually insane how much men feel okay to speak over you in your space. And so I was trying to explain this to him, and then he was saying that like, he was like, yeah, like I get that you have feelings and you like, it's really important for you to express yourself, but there's like a tact to it. And I just feel like there's a way to do it that's like, I don't know, like nicer and like just more strategy, and not everybody has that kind of tact. And I was like, because he had kind of said this the other day, and I literally went off on him and I said, I have not met somebody in a very long time who can go toe to toe with the tact of my tongue. So I don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, I guess you want me to be really, really like sugar and spice, like tooth fairy kind of comforting to you when telling you that you're acting like an asshole. And I don't know why you think you deserve that. But that's also, that would be dishonest from me. Like, I'm reciprocating energy, first of all. Second of all, I wasn't even being rude at all. Like, all I said was like, hey, you're coming off really condescending. And like, why do you always have to have the last word? And why can't I have anything ideas-wise that you don't like shit on, basically? And he couldn't understand that like, if you do that, I am going to speak to that. And then he's like, well, you should be nicer when you say that, because there's a tact. Don't talk to me about tact. If I don't have any tact in speaking, I'm a fraud, because I've built this platform off tact. It's like when people call me ugly or like a bad dancer, and I'm like, wow, I'm a fraud then, because I've been doing that as work for years. So it's hard to make me believe you when you're speaking about, I don't take men's opinions seriously about my opinions. And he kept having to say like, people respect my opinions. I don't care. So then you should respect mine. Like, why do you, I could tell he like wants to be the center of the show and the most interesting person in the room. And I think next to me, he maybe feels like he's not. And he was just starting to give like insecure. He also was talking about, this man is 30, I'm 25. And there would be times where we were talking about like Greek restaurants. And I said a restaurant that's like, I guess a little nicer. And he's like, I've never been there. I don't have money for that. I was like, whoa. I felt judged to have been to this nice restaurant. And that's kind of like the vibe that I was getting so many times. Like, we went to a Christmas market. He's complaining about how much it costs to get a hot chocolate. He's complaining about how he doesn't really like this area. He's complaining about how I want to get a drink. Like, just all these different things. And I'm like, hey, so why did you come? To yuck my yum? Exclusively to yuck the yum? Like, okay, good job. It worked. I'm no longer having fun at a place that I would have fun alone. Now what? Oh, such good opinions. So funny. It's so fun to make sure nobody has a good time if you don't like the specific things that they're doing. Why did you agree to come? Don't come to a Christmas market in an area you don't like just to complain about it because you think your opinions are cool. Not around me, sir. I'm very bad. Again, there's a reason I have this tattoo. I'm very bad at holding my tongue and hiding my feelings, especially if I feel like I'm being disrespected or somebody's trying to rain on my parade. You know what I mean? And anyways, back to last night, I also was realizing like I was giving this person a chance because I thought they had a good vibe and a cool vibe, but they're not like my regular type. Like, they are and they aren't. They are and they aren't. Like, I wouldn't say it'd be out of character for me to date someone like that, but I love dating like just really hot, extremely attractive people because I can. And sometimes I give people a shot because they seem like they're going to be nice and they're going to be cool. And then when they start to be not nice, I'm like, okay, well, now that I'm really looking at you, I'm not attracted to you. I feel like a very thick wall of ice and tension between us. I think I would physically puke if you tried to touch me. Now that you mention it. And then he was trying to frame it like, because he had said he wanted to talk on the phone before he came over. And I knew he like had some issues with me. Like, he's just very like, he makes things up in his head. Like, it's like, do you ever meet those guys and you're like, I thought I overthought. Like, I thought I overthought, but the things that I overthink about are like actually things to think about. It's been a week and you've made all these decisions and issues to do with things that you don't really, I don't think as a man in this day and age, you deserve to be like, well, why haven't I been courted yet after a week? After all women do for you, after all women go through just to like make themselves accessible to the real world and to become desirable to you and attractive to you and all these things we have, whatever. You think after a week, after you put in like one solid good amount of effort that you, because that actually ends up being 50-50 if it's 1 and 1. But in his head, he's like, oh, you know, I don't mind courting most of the time and paying most of the time, but every once in a while it's nice. And I was like, Kate, in my head, I'm like, this hasn't been in any capacity a while yet, but he was so like future focused. Like he had decided on the first date that like we were going to be in a relationship basically. And I like, he didn't say it like that. He was saying it like, you know, I really like you. Like I haven't met anybody as interesting as you. And like, you're way funnier than I thought you would be. And like, obviously I love the way you look and all this stuff. And like, you're so pretty and blah, blah, blah. But then as soon as I had an opinion, he starts to just become like a little baby wimp, like immature person. And then be like, oh, can you say that nicer? Can you say it nicer when I'm being mean to you in your house? Can you tell me nicer? Please. Tact. Oh my God. Oh my gosh. I have another story to do with my dog. He was asking me if I'm one of those people that takes my dog into places that she's not supposed to be. And then if I say that she's a service dog. And I was like, it depends. Like I've done that before. Like, cause first of all, I hold her and I just, sometimes you're walking around and I need to go to the library and I need to pick up a book that's on hold. And like one time the library asked if she was a service dog and I said yes, because I want to get her papers and stuff too. It's also like a financial barrier and like that's like paperwork and stuff like that really, really stresses me out. It's something I intend to do. I just haven't done it yet. And I don't care that much. She's this cute little thing that I hold in my arm. I take the book, I sign it out myself. It's very quick. And then I continue on with my day, with our day. And he was so upset by that. He was like, eye rolls. I was like, how does this affect you at all whatsoever? Like, you just want to be a contrarian, but the thing is, I am good at being a contrarian when it makes sense. When it makes no sense, you just come off like a dick. Like, I don't know. It's just one of the many things that I was like, what is wrong with you? Like, I was just like, why are you doing this? This is for your payroll. There is no situation where this goes well for you. You know what I mean? And so when he was here and he was talking about how I had no tact and all this stuff, and this was the second time I'd heard this speech from him, I kept my mouth shut and I was like, I just let him walk out because I was like really unattracted and I wanted my energy back and I wanted my space back. And I don't want to be the one who's inspiring you as the 25-year-old and you're the 30-year-old who's asking to be courted after a week. Like, and you're being like such a downer. Like, just everything was such a downer. I hate closed-minded people. That's my pet peeve. I hate people whose mission it is to make you feel unheard in order to service their ego. I think it's silly. I think it's dumb. I think you're too old for that. I think I'm too old for that. I think she's too old for that. There's a way to get along and be a yes and kind of person. And then I don't have to be very articulate and like say things that are on my chest and get them off my chest, because nothing will be on my chest, because everything will be just more communicated and less. I don't like the assumptions that I felt like were being made in conversation. Like, you know how like with women, sometimes it's just like so much easier to talk to them without there being like these harsh blocks of like whatever this guy is trying to get off, whether it's in regards to his ego or what. Like, I just am like, why do you have to make this conversation like pulling teeth? And then they act like that's you for noticing that. And I'm like, no, because like with my friends, like we can just let each other's opinions exist and add on rather than negate. Your habit is negate and then wonder why that's a reaction in me. Well, it's because I'm not a doll. I'm not an Alexa. I'm not a Siri. I'm a human being that you just said were so interesting and so funny, so much funnier than you expected me to be, because guys see me and they think that I'm too pretty to be able to talk like this. And that's actually the truth. Like, I think that, and this is another video I was gonna make. Like, somebody was saying, oh, well, you're light skinned, so dating in the Black community, like, they're gonna favor you. And I agree with that. And I understand, like, the light skin privilege that I have in dating specifically Black men. And I think that sometimes they have this image in their head of, like, this peaceful, like, light skinned, curly haired angel. And I'm simply not that. And they're like, what fresh hell is this? Where did she get her fucking mouth from? And I'm like, the fact that you assumed I was just a docile little being is, first of all, nuts. Second of all, dumb. Third of all, I don't know why you assumed that. Like, I don't know what about me actually gives that, even in pictures. But I think literally guys are like, oh, she's attractive. That's all she'll be. Or like, that's what she'll lead with. I never lead with that. That's the least interesting thing about me. The least interesting thing about me is the way I look. And it's also like I literally said when I was arguing, I literally said to this man last night, I was like, I'm really interested in being myself right now and expressing myself. And I'm not interested in entertaining anybody who makes me feel dimmed or shut down when I express an idea. And I feel like that's just the way you do things naturally. That's like your go-to. And I don't think it's good for me creatively. And I don't think it's good for my career. And I don't think it's good for my soul. And then he started saying, you know, there's a tact, and if you could just be nicer. For who? For you, Mr. Inspired by me? Do you know why you're inspired by me? Do you think it's because I have no tact and I'm too nice? Do you think being too nice is what got me here? I should have a code of conduct on the wall when you enter, which is speak with your chest or don't speak. Be direct or don't shoot. Don't be a wimp. Express your feelings. Like, when I say don't be a wimp or a coward, I mean, like, there's a bravery in expressing yourself and being honest and doing that consistently. And if you're not doing that, or you're pretending to do that and you're not doing that, I can't respect it. Anyways, yeah. I understand, like, some of what and I think it's actually interesting and good that I've been sharing my thoughts on, like, how I'm navigating dating so frequently, and you can see, like, the contradictions, and you can see me changing my mind, and you can see me, like, discerning and chiseling my opinion, because I'll be like, oh, like, bi men are where it's at, and then I'm like, actually, sassy men are getting a little bit out of hand. Not even to say, I don't think that, I don't know. I also just feel like sometimes it's a bait and switch. Like, sometimes guys are like, oh, I love treating girls. And then they're like, ugh, she hasn't done anything for me. It's been 6 days. She hasn't done anything for me. She hasn't born any children. She's cooked no dinner. She's planned no date. All she has done is be herself around me and share her energy that is really precious and magical and expensive. She's done nothing. If that felt like nothing to you, then I'm wasted on you. And that's something I said. I was like, most people like when I talk. So the fact that you're, like, so offended because, like, I don't know why. I really don't know why. Maybe you're just used to, like, being the only one who's talking, which is, like, concerning, because I'm a really good listener too. Like, I don't need to be talking the whole time. And he's definitely talking most of the time. He's also giving, like, opinions on every little thing. And then he'd be like, that's why I'm so selective with my opinions and when I speak. What are you talking about, bro? You never shut up. You never shut up. And again, okay, here's what I've learned. Here's what I'm learning. I'm learning in real time. I was gonna say I don't think I do well with big personalities, but honestly, I've done well with one big personality, but that's because I felt like he was a yes and person a lot of the time. Like, he was still very opinionated And there were still times where I felt like, damn, he's talking for a long time. But I still felt like I would learn things from him, and I felt like he was generally kind and really good in our communication. Even though there were some things he did that traumatized me. But overall, out of all my relationships, I did have one longer relationship that there was a point where I was like, yes, this is it. This is love. This is what I want. This is the dynamic I want. Yada, yada. And I haven't found something as close to that since at all in any way. Well, but I think generally a lot of big personalities with men come with a certain, I don't know. I think we end up butting heads because, like, maybe they want to be the star of the conversation in every conversation. They always want to be right and have the last word. And, like, sometimes that just don't sit right with me. So, yeah, that's my newest update. Or lack of update. I don't know. No, it's an update. It's an update about there being less than there was before. And that's okay. Clear space to make room for the new. To let the new and good in, right? I'm not upset at all. I realized, like I was upset, like, 2 days ago, but yesterday I was like, I was so unemotional, and I was like, I'm not even attracted to this person. Like, they're giving me the ick in so many ways. Oh my gosh. And then when we were talking about, like, how we were, like, not working romantically, I asked him, like, how his conversations normally go or something. And he got on a tangent, and he was like, I'm not lonely. Like, I have a lot of friends. Like, I'm going to hang out with my friends and I'll be happy, and I'm not lonely. And I was like, how did we get here? Like, you sound like you're trying to convince yourself, buddy. Like, anyways, yeah. That's what's new. Bibbidi boppity boo. Live, laugh, love ya. See you soon.